Hi everyone, I'm Ashley Riddell and welcome to another tutorial bucket tutorial. What we're looking at this time is a thing called the Orton glow effect. This is an old slide technique where you would take a blurred version and a sharp version of an image, you'd overexpose them and you'd work with them in the darkroom to produce an image that looks pretty much like this. It gives you very saturated colours and a smooth glowing effect. Let's turn this off so you can see the original and then with the effect. It's a very nice effect. Looks very effective on landscape images, but is also quite useful in glamour portraiture. It can give a very nice, smooth, clean skin effect that is really very, very nice. Okay, so how do we produce this? Now, if you've been looking at Orton tutorials on the web, there are several different ways that they go about producing this, and it's a little bit confusing, so I'll just try and clear up some of the confusion first. The first thing you have to do is take a copy of the original. This is consistent in all the different ways of doing this. Now, this copy needs to be lightened. Now, we can do this in one of two ways. We can either change its blending mode to screen. That's one way. That then needs to be mashed down with the background layer to produce this very, very light image. That is one way of doing it. I'll just undo with Control Z, that's Command Z on the Mac. The other way of doing this, which I think is a little bit better and just saves you a little bit of work, is after you've made your copy, go to the Image menu and choose Apply Image. Now from the Apply Image box, you choose the blending mode. Now the blending mode that I've got set here is for screen. This produces exactly the same result as a layer blending mode of screen. The difference, when I click on OK, I get the effect of a screen blended image in a normal layer. In other words, I've saved myself the step of mashing it down, merging it down onto the other layer. So that's just saving a little bit of time, but it's exactly the same. Okay, what comes next? Now we copy this layer one more time. So I'll just drag it onto my new layer icon, and I'm going to put some names on these. The very first layer that I've copied, I'm going to call this Sharp. This layer is going to control the sharp focus details. The top layer, I'm going to rename it Blurred. This is going to be a diffuse layer. It's going to control that glow effect. So, two things to do. First, the blending mode for this blurred layer has to change from normal to multiply. This will darken the image so that the screen type image for sharp is counteracted by the multiply. It sort of evens it out a little bit. And we need to blur this. Obviously, we've got blurred as a name, so that's what we're going for. Go to your filter menu. Choose from the blur listing the Gaussian blur. Now the setting for the Gaussian blur for this is going to depend very much on the resolution of your image. I, as always, work with very high resolution images. So I find that for this sort of thing, a setting of somewhere between about 25 minimum, somewhere up to about 50 will generally give me very good results. But you can eyeball this. As a general rule, if I just drag this over and just zoom out a little bit, I'll show you how the blur is supposed to look. The blur is supposed to be fuzzy enough that it blurs out any sharp details, but it retains the overall shapes. As soon as you get that level of blurring, you're in the ballpark. It's the right sort of level. Anywhere in there where it retains those general shapes will give you a nice glow effect, so you can just eyeball how much of it you want to throw on. I'll just leave this set to about 30 in this case. I think that looks quite nice for this image. And say OK. And there it is. That's our Orton effect applied. Now you can fool around with this effect quite a bit. Sometimes on certain images you'll find that the blending of the two layers is going to produce some unwanted shading. It's going to be a bit too dark in some instances. Now if that's the case, just throw down a curve layer. So I'm just using a selective layer for curves. And you might just want to nudge up the gamma point just a little bit, and that will lighten some of the dark areas. You could also change it into an S-curve. S-curve is a very popular technique, much beloved by photographers for many years, but keep the S-curve fairly gentle. You can't really push the S-curve too hard before it starts to look a little bit weird. And I think that will do me just fine. Yep, that'll do for me. So let's take a look. Here is before, and here is after our Orton glow effect.